lot of, yesterday we had Arjuna Award winners, Padma Shris. So in this panel itself, we have 2 Padma Shris. So can we have Raghu and Ananda on the stage, please? So what we wanted to do today is continuing the conversation that Suhas has started of when we talk about health, when we talk about especially disease, you have a problem, you go to the hospital or you go to the doctor, we usually talk about the disease and the solution, the disease and the, whether it's a chemotherapy or medicine or whatever. But each of you are an example of how everything we do is much more than those 2 things. So I thought I'll have a bit of conversation with each of you about what's beyond the 4 walls of the hospital or the treatment center that really brings wellness into this world. So, Dr. Raghu, I'm going to start with you. You know, you returned to India. Basically, your mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, so you came back to take care of her, and that led to establishing, she not only recovered, but it led for you to establish one of the most successful breast centers in the world, actually, and for which you got a Padma Shri as well. So, a great honor. And so you have an interesting theory of, there's one room in your center that's the most important room. So tell us about that room.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi. Yes, I did come back with a passion to serve my motherland when my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things when my mother said, when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, when I was working in the UK is, whatever you do when you come back home, you ensure that counseling is given utmost importance, because she was counseled, and she is a gynecologist, and she has been treating patients all her life in India. In India, counseling is not part of our medical curriculum. And she said that the comfort, the inner strength that she got because of being counseled by the breast care nurse in the United Kingdom was something that has given her a lot of strength to deal with the disease. So one of the first things that I do when I see a patient, which I think is my duty, is to be able to counsel the patient, talk to the patient, and before talking, listen to the patient. Because as a doctor, as Hippocrates said many thousands of years ago, you can cure sometimes, you can treat often, but it's important to comfort the patient always. So when somebody is told that they have breast cancer, there is a veil in front of the patient and the doctor, and it is the duty of the doctor to comfort the patient in a way that will reassure the patient, to relieve the anxiety, the fears associated, and equally provide that inner strength that is required to fight the disease. I'm not doing any favors by counseling. In fact, it is my duty, and I take that very seriously, and that is uppermost in my mind when I first break the diagnosis of breast cancer to the patient.
Yeah. So, Ananda, you were one of the patients he's referring to, and if anybody knows Ananda, she's not an easy person. She's very strong, has her opinions, and she wants to do what she does. She's an amazing dancer, Padma Shri from Hyderabad. So, and also is in the Indian Railway Services as a side job. No, and so Ananda, tell us a little bit about when you first found out. Actually, you gave a great TED talk for me in Mysore about dancing your way out of cancer. So when you first found out, you actually worked with Dr. Raghu. So tell me, what was your experience?
Thanks, Lakshmi, for having all of us here. Thanks for all of you being here. Yes, the first time you hear the word carcinoma or cancer can be, as he said, more than a whale. It can be like a thunderbolt. And as I've always said, we as dancers know the 9 emotions. We act the 9 emotions, but when you hear the word cancer, you know and understand and experience one emotion, that is fear. But with the counseling that started from the very moment I met Dr. Raghu Ram, I transitioned from weepiness, frustration, anger, fear, to a state of being able to deal with this, with this thunderbolt. Also, because I'm a dancer, I have this inner core strength, I call it, a passion. Most of us are trained to be core competent as innovators and entrepreneurs, but very rarely are we trained to have core strengths. And I make a distinction, and my core strength has been my dance. So when I heard the word carcinoma and cancer and breast cancer and surgery and the whole works of chemotherapy and radiation that was to follow after the in-depth counseling and informed decisions I had made, the fact that I shifted my mind from the clamor, clutter, and melodrama that cancer comes with, thanks to media, thanks to our social systems, I shifted it to being in the happy, wonderful space of my dance, and that helped. So on this platform, I'd like to replace the big C equals cancer to big C equals choice. I made the choice of moving my mind, my spirit, my body, from the overwhelming neediness. You know, cancer is very needy. It wants constant attention. So I told my tumor, I said, hail fellow, well met, but now get on with your way. I have no time for you. So with that attitude is what helped, and I think nurturing and nourishing a passion from my childhood helped me transition this challenge of life. Because I personally believe that the business of life is to challenge us, be it cancer, be it anything else, and to transition that easily with strength and equanimity of mind and spirit. I feel a core strength or a passion helps.
Yeah.
And for me, that came from the counseling, the fact that he counseled and said, you'll be fine, you'll get back, you'll dance, and of course, family, which was there throughout.
You know, it was quite an amazing moment when we curated her TED Talk. She came in her regalia, she danced, and when she finished, she took her wig off, and she just finished her chemo at that time, and the hair was just growing up, and she gave her talk. It was truly one of the most emotional moments for me to see that.
Yeah, I remember this, just when I was going around with this nice bald pate, somebody in the audience, as a dancer, I was sitting there watching a performance, and somebody came and said, oh, have you been to Tirupati? So for those of you who are not from South India, you sacrifice your hair in Tirupati. So as an offering. So when they said, have you been to Tirupati? I said, no, that's chemotherapy.
Yes. So now we are on to you, Raghu. I mean, you spent a long time in US. You've been in the finance industry, business development, all sorts of things. And you decided to come back to India specifically to figure out how you can contribute toward L.V. Prasada Institute in the areas of innovation. And so tell us about the labs you run and what excites you about, again, this conversation beyond just the treatment.
So what we're trying to do now with L.V. Prasada Institute is L.V. Prasada Institute currently runs a network of 177 centers in 4 states. Here in Telangana, the neighboring states of Andhra, Karnataka, and Orissa. And we serve a population of 150 million people. But the idea is to use technology now and our innovation centers to create solutions which serves the needs of not only those 150 million people through linear growth, but also through the 4.2 billion people through vertical growth. Now, why do I say 4.2 billion? It's 63% of the people are statistically proven to have some form of refractive error or some version of some kind of visual disorder. Now, if we can use our data and our know-how and empower our clinicians and our technicians at those lowest levels to be able to identify and screen for those diseases, we're going to do a great job. So our innovation labs and like our Center for Technology, which we co-incubated with MIT, we develop screening tools where a vision technician, a person who is a 10th class pass, who we trained for a year, can take a tool and measure people's refractive errors, their measurements for diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma tests, etc.
And I just want to say that this was started in 1987, and in 30 years you served almost 24 million people, and over half of them are treated for free. I mean, it's just an amazing service you guys have done so far. So, so Dr. Raghu, coming back to you, you've already been doing this. There's been a lot of, well, success is a weird word in your business, but you've been able to serve a lot of patients, etc. What are your plans? I mean, what would you like to see happen?
First and foremost, as we are speaking about counseling, I'd very much want counseling to become part and parcel, mandatory course, mandatory part of our Indian medical curriculum, because I examine for the fellowship examinations and the membership examinations, and the UK exams, the MRCS or the FRCS or the MRCOG examinations have an important component of their exam is communication skills. So if you're not able to communicate with the patient and the patient's spouse or the immediate relative, no matter how good you may be, you will not pass the examination. And I think communication skills must become part and parcel of the assessment, examination, and practice. And what we have done as a foundation, because we have also established a foundation which has my mother's name, through the foundation, one of the first things that I did when I returned to India 10 years ago is to associate with Breast Cancer Care UK, which is UK's largest breast cancer charity, which provides information about every aspect of breast health, not necessarily cancer alone, explained in simple, easy to understand language. So it's the first time that Breast Cancer Care UK has associated with a foundation overseas. So we were very fortunate that information with some changes, modifications to suit Indian conditions has been translated to English and Telugu. And recently, after Prime Minister Modi announced the Digital India campaign 2 years ago, we launched the world's first mobile app which explains about all aspects of breast health, not just breast cancer, every aspect of breast health in 12 languages. And this is the way forward. I think we should be able to explain to people who present to us, as a doctor, the primary responsibility has to start with counseling patients and then slowly initiate that patient into treatment. And also, a lot of times I find patients who come who say that we would like to use Ayurvedic treatment or homeopathic treatment. And a lot of times I find allopathic doctors rubbishing this, which is wrong in my opinion. I think it's important to accommodate the patient's requests as long as one is able to convince that patient that taking the allopathic treatment is important. For example, in Ananda's case, she had a hectic international dance festival. So we had to slightly modify the treatments given, the schedule given to suit her dance. Right. So one shouldn't be rigid. I think the patient is of utmost importance, and I think we should tailor the treatment suiting that particular patient. So if you ask me in one sentence as to what should happen, I think counseling should become an integral part of our Indian medical curriculum. Great. That's what I'd want.
So Ananda, you've now turned an entrepreneur, in addition to being administrative services, dancer, etc. Yesterday, Jay was talking about an app. You have an app.
Yes, I do.
So tell us about what it does.
Well, this is a dance app, a browser-based application, not a mobile application, but a browser-based application accessible on any device. It's called Natyarambha. You can access it on natyarambha.com. It basically connects the dance class practice with the guru and the gap which is there where the child doesn't practice at home. It's between class and home. It connects that. It helps the young child, young practitioner, guru, senior person coming back to work on their basics, because the body has a very short memory. So you have to keep working on it as a dancer. So keep pushing it, building up your stamina. So the basics is available. We are going to escalate and add more components, other styles. It's something that was launched in January, natyarambha.com. It's doing well. It's the first of its kind in the world.
Great.
Yeah,
and so, Raghu, what are the things you're looking forward to? You came here a few months ago, and you have, as it is, cleaning up the system from, we were talking earlier, and he said that you had over 50 projects to your paring it down to 15 projects that you can really focus on, etc. Where do you see this going? What excites you for you to come back and participate in this?
I mean, this is a very exciting time to be in India right now, if anything. I mean, there are a lot of people like myself coming back to India from the United States, looking to make big changes and help the Indian system and Indian people forward. I think what's happening right now, especially for L.V. Prasad Eye Institute right now, is we have a lot of young engineers, a lot of young minds who are very ambitious and want to pursue big goals. We have projects ranging from something as simple as a folding phoropter, which is made out of cardboard, or something all the way up to a adaptive optics device, which in other settings could be applied for a LiDAR. And then we also have regenerative medicine projects where we're actually building organs from scratch. So it's really a question of, I mean, I think the horizon is really, really great. The enormity of the projects is phenomenal. It's just a question of what we can actually achieve and what we can focus in on. I think it's very easy for us to think about a very big picture and say, we're going to look at the easiest problem, we're going to look at the hardest problem, and once we solve those, we can figure out everything else in between. But I think we have to really focus in on what those problems are, which we should focus on, which are solving the needs of the most people. Because we are a public health organization first and foremost, it's very important that we focus on those problems, on those people in those villages first. Because if all of this is for naught, if we're not actually solving the needs of those people in those villages, which our primary purpose is to serve. If we focus only on the tier 1 cities and the populations there, the purpose of this entire institute is for naught.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for all your time, for all that you're doing to move the conversation way beyond the 4 walls of the treatment centers.
He helped me dance through cancer.
Pardon?
It was Dr. Raghu Ram who helped me dance through cancer because
Yes.
I danced through it.
Yes.
Through everything.
I think just touching upon the point on counseling, because cancer doesn't just affect the body, it affects the mind.
Correct.
Treating just the body is not adequate. Treating the mind or preparing the mind to accept the treatment is as important as giving the treatment, because whatever treatment is given, if the mind is not prepared, the body will not accept that treatment, and that's very, very important.
Because cancer really is a mind game completely. You deal with it from the mind.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.